Matty the Horse Ianniello. He appeared before a magistrate this afternoon, flanked by a U.S. prosecutor and his own...
Who was Matthew Ianniello, the mob boss who was arrested watching Godfather 3? Matthew Joseph Matty the Horse Ianniello was a New York mobster with the Genovese crime family, who was once the acting boss of the Genovese crime family. During the 1960s and the 1970s, Ianniello controlled the lucrative adult entertainment business that was then centered in Times Square section of Manhattan. Matthew Ianniello was born in 1920 in Little Italy, Manhattan. He grew up in the Italian neighborhoods of New York. Ianniello was married to Beatrice May and the couple had 4 children. Ianniello allegedly got his nickname Matty the Horse in a youth baseball game. Ianniello was gifted player with a hard swing. During one game, the opposing pitcher threw a hard pitch into the face of the batter. A fight erupted in which Ianniello knocked down the pitcher, who was older and taller than him. After this episode, someone remarked about Ianniello, "That boy is as strong as a horse." In 1940, Ianniello started working for his uncle as a waiter in a restaurant in the Brooklyn dockyard. In 1942 or 1943, Ianniello enlisted in the US Army and served in World War II. In 1945, Ianniello returned home as a decorated war veteran. He went back to work at his uncle's restaurant and by 1949 became partners with his uncle in a second restaurant, Matty Town Krays restaurant. In 1951, Ianniello was arrested on charge of possessing heroin, but the charges were dropped. In the 1960s, Ianniello joined the Genovese crime family, then run by imprisoned boss Vito Genovese. Ianniello's sponsor was mobster and future acting boss Frank Terry. Ianniello eventually controlled automated transit union bus drivers local L1181, giving him the power to extort payments from school bus companies in New York as well as the union driver. On February 2, 1965, Ianniello was indicted on contempt of grand jury charges for refusal to testify. However, the charges were dismissed in 1966. At the beginning of the 1970s, Ianniello was promoted to capo regime. By now, Ianniello controlled over 80 restaurants and sex-oriented clubs in New York, including most those located in Times Square area of Manhattan. In 1972, Colombo crime family rebel Joe Gallo was murdered at Umberto's Clam House, a restaurant in Little Italy, Manhattan that was secretly owned by Ianniello. On April 7, 1972, in 1986, Judge Weinfeld sentenced Matthew Ianniello to 6 years in prison on racketeering charges that involved skimming over $2 million from bars and restaurants, including Umberto's Clam House, the Peppermint Lounge and a topless bar called Mardi Gras, all in Manhattan, secretly owned by Matthew. On February 28, 1985, Ianniello was indicted in federal court in New York on charges of racketeering charges involving the operation of several restaurants, bars and carting companies using a wiretap on Ianniello's office. Agents assembled proof that it was skimming profits from several establishments that he secretly owned. On December 30, 1985, Ianniello was convicted on numerous counts. On February 16, 1986, Ianniello was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison on 1985 charges. On May 13, 1986, Ianniello was acquitted on all charges. On May 18, 1988, Ianniello was indicted again in Newark, New Jersey on racketeering charges involving the 1984 Genovese takeover of a gravel company in Edgewater, New Jersey. On October 13, 1988, Ianniello was sentenced to 13 years in federal prison after being convicted of the 1986 big reading racketeering charges. In 1995, Ianniello was released from prison, but Genovese boss Vincent Gigante went to prison. Ianniello became acting boss. By 1998, on July 27, 2005, Ianniello was indicted on racketeering charges in New York involving extortion and loan sharking. Agents arrested Ianniello at his home, reported that he was watching the film The Godfather Part 3. In 2006, Ianniello pleaded guilty to the New York racketeering charges and received an 18-month prison sentence. The same year, he pleaded guilty in Connecticut in 2 racketeering charges for extorting the trash hauling industry and was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison to run concurrent with the 18-month in New York sentence. Ianniello's attorney had asked for amnesty, saying Ianniello had cancer and was general poor health. On April 3, 2009, Ianniello was released from Federal Medical Center for prisoners in Butler, North Carolina. On August 15, 2012, Ianniello died at his Long Island home in Old Westbury, New York, of health problems related to heart ailments and other illness, including prostate cancer.